What's the deal, everybody? Welcome back to the studio. Jeremy Deal here, and today I'm introducing a new segment, and this is what I'm really looking forward to because it's really kind of the reason I started this YouTube channel to begin with. Today, I'm going to be going over a subscriber question, and I guess I'm going to call this Help Me to Help You because I don't really know what else to call it right now. One of my subscribers, Jason, reached out and he actually asked me how much it would cost to give him a review on his video. Well, I don't really want to charge you guys anything. My goal is to eventually make money through YouTube and not you, the consumer. So just remember, like and subscribe. It helps me with the algorithm, all that jazz. So I asked Jason if he would mind if I actually use this as kind of like a teaching moment for anyone else getting into industry, getting into video that maybe needs a little bit of help or a little bit of guidance or has some questions. So Jason, thank you very much, number one, for being a good sport about it all. I promise I won't rip you a new one. This will be very kind and informational, and I hope it really helps out. So while I'm talking about this right now, the very first thing I'm going to do is over there, I'm just going to start playing the video that he did. This is what he did, and he sent it to me for a review on it. And the very first comment I'm going to make to you is to just slow down on site. Whether that be thinking about your settings and thinking about the focus. I noticed autofocus is used a lot. I personally don't use autofocus unless I have a very specific focus pull shot I need to make. But generally speaking, I keep everything on manual focus so I don't have this focus jumping effect that I can see every once in a while in your video. That being said, I mean slow down, and I mean to actually slow down. This is a problem a lot of people have when they're getting into video because they're like, I'll just shoot in 60 frames a second and I'll slow it down in post. But realistically, 60 frames a second isn't that slow. So you still have to move slow. You can't move at half pace. You can't move at quarter pace. You got to move slow like molasses. You got to creep whenever you're doing these videos. Whenever you're moving, you don't want to hold your gimbal and move around in a fast motion. You literally want to move so slow you can barely tell. And this is why I recommend moving at the hips a lot instead of actually walking and moving. Granted, the ninja walk is very popular, but to grab your gimbal and move at the hips creates a nice fulcrum point for everything to move beyond. And it also causes you to slow down a lot more whenever you're doing your actual video work. So just remember, you can always speed things up in post, but it's much harder to slow things down in post. And that would be my first tip, is to really just slow down. The next thing I noticed from the footage that you sent me over is that there's kind of a mix between this slow room reveal and walkthrough video. So I would say decide which one of those two styles you prefer. I don't do the walkthrough video styles, though they are very popular. So if you're gonna do the walkthrough styles, I found that walkthrough videos are a little more difficult because you have to think about how you're gonna enter and exit a room in advance because you want as little cuts as possible. Now, if you're trying to do something more like I do, the slow pan style videos, then you could cut out a lot of this walking in the hallways style shots, and that will save you a lot of time on site. Trust me, I used to take all of these as well. Another thing I want to mention is you probably fall into the same category a whole lot of us fall into, and that is simply falling in love with all of your shots. This is a huge problem for me personally, and that's why I've noticed over time I try and take less shots in the field. Not only does it save me time, but it also allows me to cut down footage at the end. There are a few shots, especially in the sunroom and in the opening. When you first walk into the front yard of the house, you have multiple shots showing the same area from the same angle, so it looks very repetitive. So I would cut a few of those out. Just remember, whenever you're doing this videos, you're really trying to showcase the property and you're trying to spend as little time on the final output as possible, so that way everything flows cohesively and you don't want, especially right in the beginning, for your viewer to kind of get bored with the footage that's going on. So another thing that you can do is really think about the story of the house in the video that you're trying to make ahead of time. I noticed there were a lot of things that you filmed the same thing over and over from different shots, and that in particular, I'll talk about the fireplace in the main seating area or a living room, I guess you would call it. I'm not really quite sure which one it was, but either way, you had the reveal come down from the light and you had a reveal from behind a couch, but there was no actual footage of that room, at least in the footage that you provided me. So that was kind of like a thing where as you do this more and more, you'll learn that you only need one of these reveal shots. So you should depend on how you're going to build out your video. Knowing your song in advance really helps this. But once again, just a little bit of pre-planning will save you a lot of time on site. It'll save you a lot of storage room and a lot of headache back in the editing room. Now, a few other little points, tips, and tricks I can give you along the way is that the very first thing is I noticed whenever looking at your footage on the timeline is that you shot everything in 60 frames a second, which is good, but you didn't actually slow any of that footage down. Whenever you drag footage onto the timeline, it just kind of interpolates the footage to that timeline and it doesn't automatically slow it down. So right here you can see there is a way where you can grab all of these shots, you can adjust them so they are 24 frames a second, matching what you wanted to do, and it automatically slows it down a little bit. Now in cases like this where you are still moving really fast but you want that butter smooth footage, there is one way you can save a little bit of this footage, and that is with optical flow. It allows you to turn down your speed lower than you actually shot it and kind of blend the scenes in between using DaVinci Resolve's AI. Now, I don't use it all the time, but you'll see whenever I put the video together at the end of yours, I use it a whole lot, and you can see it in some places. Some places it's not as noticeable, but just keep that in mind. Optical flow is over on the right underneath your stabilization options. So if you use that as one of your options, it will really help when slowing down footage past the point that you actually shot it at, which is what I had to do a lot of with this final footage. Next thing. I noticed a lot of your angles were very tall, as though you were just standing up. If you notice, whenever I stand, I'm not just standing like this because I'm trying to fit into the frame. I'm standing like this because you want to be crouched, and for videos in real estate, you really want to get that lower angle or that child's angle, that doorknob height. You want your lens to roughly be right at or right above the doorknob whenever you're entering rooms like bathrooms, bedrooms. Your kitchen height was really good because it was just high enough to not show underneath the cabinets, which is important. So your kitchen height was really good, but I noticed a lot of your entrances into bedrooms and bathrooms in particular, they were very high and you went down into the room in kind of a fast motion. I would recommend starting at a lower angle and pushing in, just because it makes the room seem larger when you're shooting at a lower angle. Hope that helps. Another thing to talk about is thinking about your transitions ahead of time. And what I mean by this is whenever you're shooting a room, think about how you're going to show one side and how that clip will transition into the clip of the other side. And then think about how that clip will transition into the next one. So that way you can do things like in your kitchen, you had this really nice pan to the right shot. That was my favorite one of your straight pan shots. It was really good. But something like that, like thinking about where your next shot is going, so that way you can match up these shots better. So it's a little more visually cohesive to the viewer. So that way you're not constantly jumping from left to right. I hope that makes sense. But just thinking about your transitions ahead of time can really help, especially when you're going to do those macro style shots. So if there's something you want to show off, like a fireplace, you should probably start with a wide shot of the entire room, pushing in, and then when you go into the macro shot, you'll probably want that pushing in as well, so it looks like you just zoomed into that shot real quick from where you were at. So thinking about transitions can really help the grand scheme and final project of your video. What's next? Now, one thing I do want to say is that you actually did really good on your footage. The majority of your footage is very stable. So I know you were having problems, you said, with the stability in the email that you talked about. But realistically speaking, if you would have slowed down your clips, it would have been a lot more stable. So just remember, slowing down is the easiest way to get more stable shots. But overall, I thought your footage was pretty stable. Once again, as you learn the ninja walk and these little pivot at the hip things, your shots will get naturally smoother. Just remember that the gimbal is a tool and it's not a miracle. It can't just take anything and make it stable. It's all about what you put. It makes your stable movements more stable, if that makes sense. So that's about everything, man. I really like the way you ended the video with the drone footage. The entrance or the beginning of the video I thought was a little clunky because you were kind of showing some things I feel like you didn't necessarily need to show. But either way, thanks again, Jason, for submitting this footage. I hope this helps you. I hope it helps anyone else watching this footage along the way. So I don't really know what else to say. I guess I'm going to end this video clip by actually playing my version with all the footage that Jason sent to me and I redid and kind of laid it out. Keep in mind, I didn't do any grading or anything like that. This was just a different layout to show him what could be done with the actual footage he's already got with just a little bit of extra hard work and extra knowledge. I know you're going to knock it out of the park next time. And anyone else, if you have any questions about anything, if you're stuck on something and need some help, please comment below. I'll get in touch with you. We'll find a way to trade footage. And as long as you're okay with me making a video about it to teach others in the process, I'll help you for free of charge. That's right. Don't cost you nothing. Remember, like, subscribe, all that jazz. As always, keep rocking and rolling, enjoy what you're doing, make smart business decisions, and apply some of this knowledge to your own videos. I'll catch you next time.